Feed it into Nance against the double team. Goes right around it for the dunk.
It's not often a person gets to have a career they absolutely love. Dave Walsh is one of those people.
Down the lane, tried to shovel the Cook. Good catch for another dunk.
I call a game with emotion and with passion. I don't think I could ever be accused of being bland. I know that I've been called a homer, and I admit that. They're right.
He says he was one of the young sports geeks who would fall asleep listening to a baseball game at night, thinking it would be so cool to be able to do that. Announce sports, that is. He got the chance in 1976 after graduating with a BS in radio and television from San Diego State University. He was hired by KROP Radio in Brawley, California. He called play-by-play for the local high school for 3 years before making a move to Utah. He worked in radio at KWMS in Salt Lake City as a sports reporter, then at KLO Radio in Oregon as sports director and play-by-play announcer for Weber State College football and men's basketball for 3 years. In 1982, Dave made Casper, Wyoming his home when Fred Hildebrand and WAB Hall of Famer Alice Bubeck of KVOC Radio hired him as sports director and air personality. He also did play-by-play for the newly formed Wyoming Wildcatters in the Continental Basketball Association. As if he wasn't busy enough, Dave worked weekends at KTWO Television as the sports anchor with WAB Hall of Famers George Kay, Pete Williams, Jack Rosenthal, and a small guy by the name of Bob Price. Dave was living in Casper doing a job he loved. But 150 miles southeast of Casper, changes were coming for both Dave and the University of Wyoming.
All of a sudden, the Cowboy job came open, and Kurt Gowdy and Kurt Gowdy Sports had the rights that year in 1984. And after a so-called search, I lucked out and was so fortunate that Kurt liked my stuff and hired me as the voice of the Cowboys.
Kurt hired Dave on the spot, and he has been the voice of the Cowboys ever since. More than likely, Dave will be most remembered as the voice of the Wyoming Cowboys, but he has also contributed to many other great projects around Wyoming, including his work for 19 years with the Wyoming Radio Network. Dave produced a 90-second sports commentary, which broadcasts daily. For 20 years, he produced and hosted a 90-minute sports call-in program on KOWB and KCGY in Laramie. Currently, he writes and produces a 2-minute daily program for both Wonders of Wyoming and Wyoming Sports Today, airing daily on a 25-station network. Even though he is an avowed radio guy, Dave has done plenty of work on the small screen. He has played the host on Wyoming football and basketball coaches' television shows for more than 30 years.
It would be the final regular season game for the Cowboys, or final home game of the season. In fact, for 8 seniors, Coach, it was their final game. We'll take a look at some ceremonies a little bit later in the show.
And Dave produced the Cowboy Insider on KGWN television for 10 years.
To see who gets to possess it this season, let's take a close-up look at the Cowboys and the Rams on the Cowboy Insider.
He has been named Wyoming Sportscaster of the Year 9 times by the National Sportscaster Sports Writers Association and has been involved in the Cowboy Joe Club. Dave has had a great career he loves and one he hopes made a difference for people.
What I'd want people to just remember that he was a good broadcaster, that we enjoyed listening when he was broadcasting. I guess that's fine with me. That's fine with me.
Dave has worked with many great Wyoming broadcasters over the years, including color analyst Larry Berleffi, George Kay, Rich Berkhamshaw, sideline reporters Tim Ray, Randy Welniak, and Reese Monaco, and of course, his longtime friend and color analysis, Kevin McKinney. Kevin McKinney grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. His dad, John, worked at KFBC Radio in sales for over 43 years. which is sort of ironic since Kevin will be completing his 43rd year at the University of Wyoming this year. He was an intern in UW Sports Information Office all 4 years of his undergraduate career, graduating in 1971 with a degree in journalism. At various times, he was sports editor for the Wyoming State Tribune in Cheyenne, as a staffer for United Press International, and as a public information specialist for the Wyoming Highway Department. After working for WYDOT for a year, he returned to his alma mater as Assistant Sports Information Director at the University of Wyoming. In 1975, Kevin was named Director of Sports Information, and in 2007 was named the school's Senior Associate Athletics Director for External Affairs, a position he holds today. He has been called a walking history book of University of Wyoming athletics and was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Wyoming State Athletics Hall of Fame in 2011. He was inducted into the UW Athletics Hall of Fame in 2013. Kevin has also been honored as the Wyoming Sportscaster of the Year and has had the privilege of working at several NC2A basketball tournaments, including 2 Final Fours, and was an information coordinator at the National Sports Festival in Indianapolis, Indiana in 1983. So that's just a summary of his day-to-day work in the athletic department. He led a double life, SID by day and color analysis on weekends. How does the SID find himself in the broadcast booth? A little bit of luck, said Kevin. He had always wanted to get into broadcasting, but really thought upon his graduation from the university in 1971 that he would be a writer. As the sports information director, he was traveling with basketball, and at the time, there were 2 broadcast originations, one with the Intermountain Network with Larry Berleffi, and the other with Gene Benson. Gene had asked Kevin that since he's on the trip anyway, would he have an interest in working with him on radio? Kevin checked with his boss at the time, Bill Young, and although he thought it was a bit of a conflict of interest, he allowed Kevin to give it a shot. At first, Kevin did only the road games because of his SID responsibilities back home. One thing led to another, and he ended up working with Berleffi. He went from doing road games only to, at one point, doing 3 different originations. Kevin did the basketball games from 1972 to current, and then in the mid-1980s, Lee Moon asked him if he was doing basketball, why wasn't he doing football too? That's when Kevin became a permanent fixture in the broadcast booth as the color analysis for both football and basketball. Both Dave Walsh and Kevin McKinney have called games with some of the best sportscasters in the business. Many are WAB Hall of Famers like Larry Berleffi, Ray Lansing, and George Kay. However, it's Dave and Kevin that the fans of Wyoming have come to rely on to hear their beloved Cowboys. For the past 32 years, Wyoming fans have listened to their radio to hear the familiar voices of Dave Walsh and Kevin McKinney as they paint a picture of Cowboys football and basketball. Over the years, Dave and Kevin, as Walsh would say, or Kevin and Dave, as McKinney would be quick to interject, have been together longer than any other University of Wyoming broadcast team. Together, they've traveled millions of miles, stayed in countless hotels, been through conference team shuffling, coaching changes, and stadium refurbishing. But despite all of the changes and time together, the two have remained a team, which all Wyoming fans listening to the games appreciate and enjoy. Throughout the years, they've talked their way through many games and have become common household names on game day. They broadcast countless games together, leading to many memorable and unforgettable moments. They both agree that one of the most unforgettable moments was the 1988 season opener against BYU on Thursday night in War Memorial Stadium. The Cowboys won 24-14 on their way to an 11-2 season and the WAC championship. This game was the first ever night game in War Memorial Stadium. It was the conference opener, and it was televised nationally by ESPN. Wyoming dominated the game, which made it a especially special night. One of those not-so-great moments was having to call a game in Ohio from the office of the defense coordinator on their cell phones because their equipment didn't work. When they speak about each other, they are quick to sing each other's praises. They have the utmost respect for each other and the talent each brings to the broadcast. They both bleed brown and gold and love their Cowboys. It shows in the broadcast they deliver to their loyal fans each and every game. Thanks, Kevin and Dave, for being such great Wyoming broadcasters. The Wyoming Association of Broadcasters is proud to induct you both into the WAB Hall of Fame class of 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Walsh and Kevin McKinney.